Hello, welcome to David Galata Book Dreamer. I'm David Galata, and I'm the guy dreaming up books, including my first book, Crew of Ganges, which is still available on Amazon or at the events that I host. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about the writing process, whether it's by hand or typing. We're not going to talk about typing. Don't worry. Not a topic I'm that interested in. Although I do use the keyboard quite a bit. I want to talk about some of the unwritten things that can help with the writing process and talk a little bit about my own process. Understand that if you're writing a book, your process is going to be unique. It's going to fit you. That's the first thing you have to understand. You can read all the how to be a writer, how to be an author books that you want. You're going to have to come up with your own unique style, not just of writing, but the process in which you create a book. Now, here I'm assuming you're writing a book, not a short story, not a novella, but books. You're writing full books, anywhere from 150 to 600 pages. I like 600-page books. Can you tell? Can you tell I like 600-page books? Uh, Always loved reading them, so yeah, it's no surprise I do write some. First thing I want to talk about is having a dream journal. Well, yeah, I guess it makes sense that David Galata Book Dreamer would talk about a dream journal right off the bat. It is an incredible tool. I am a very vivid dreamer. I do a lot of lucid dreaming. My dreams are very everything, tactile. I smell things, I taste things. It's all in color, it's all 3D. So sometimes it's hard for me to tell when I'm awake and when I'm not, which leads to some interesting issues. But that aside, not everyone dreams like that, and I do understand that. But most people do dream, and most people remember dreams here and there. So keep a little notebook near your bed. When you wake up from a really odd dream or a very interesting dream or a very involved dream, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, take a moment to write it down. It's not going to take long. Just a paragraph will do to remind you. Once you nail it down with a paragraph, you'll find that 3 days later, you'll read that paragraph. Oh yeah, that dream, because you wrote it down. You're giving your mind the time to store that dream into long-term memory. And by writing it down, you're ensuring that it's nailed there. Having dreams is a vital tool for writing books. Sometimes I do dream about the books that I'm working on, as well as making books from the dreams I have. So you can see if you had a dream about your novel, and then you go back to bed, and you wake up in the morning to your alarm, and, what was that dream that I had? You don't want to be in that position. You want to be able to look right at your journal, and you're probably not even going to have to. Because you wrote it down, you're like, yeah, and I got that one. So it's going to be great. You've got it set. So a dream journal is vital for the creative process. Another thing that you should really do is have notebooks all about the house. I don't care what size they are. I don't care, what type they are. But you know what? Carry your phone around, because all of these have a notebook feature, right? Your phone has a notebook feature. So, no, have that with you, so that when an idea strikes you, and it can be in the middle of a conversation, it could be while you're watching something, or while you're cooking dinner. Doesn't matter what it is you're doing. Jot down a quick note. Write down a quick note. I know if you're at work or something like that, and they really don't want you on your phone a lot unless it's for business, a little notepad, one of those little guys, a little notepad, you can get them in almost any store, and just write down a paragraph. That's it. Just a paragraph, so that whatever it was that popped into your head at an inopportune moment, doesn't drift away and become forgotten. This has happened to me, so I'm sure it has happened to many other people. Having these notebooks all over the place is a big help for those moments where you're going, wow, what if I put this in my book? Or, a conversation between two characters just kind of bubbles up to the surface. This happens usually when we're not focusing on the work, when you're not at your keyboard, when you're not with your notebooks. So always have a little notebook with you so you can write down these ideas as they come to you. Part of this process, before I get into that, yes, all of this is unscripted. Before I get into that, I just want to say this is something I also do at the laundromat, when I'm going to a doctor's appointment or anything like that where I'm going to be sitting around waiting for something for a while. I bring my notebooks with me and I work on my books. I work on ideas. I plot things out. I plan things out. Don't waste the time. You don't have time to waste. So don't waste your time. Use your time wisely. Use it for your work. Use it for your writing. It's a wonderful way to pass the time. And you know what? You'll end up like, oh, wow, it's time to go. So yeah, it helps the time move much more quickly than just sitting around staring at a clock. That all having been said, what do you do next? The next thing I like to do is I will use a cloud service and I will collate my notes. Where do they belong? Which book do these notes belong in? Where do I want to put them in? Do I number them? And yes, I do number them so that I can match them to my timeline. So my timeline might have a main character's name, and then after their name, note 3712. Okay, so when it's time to write that chapter, I look, it's this character. That's great. I know what's going on. Let's take a look at the notes. Okay, 33 and 12. Okay, I go into there, and there are my notes to remind me what I want to put into that chapter from that character's point of view. And that's all on a cloud service. Those are wonderful things. Again, you can use them on your phone. You can use them on your tablets. You can use them on your laptops. You can use them on your desktop. They're a really fabulous tool, especially for incomplete things like, it's not your work is out there and, potentially vulnerable. It's just notes that really only make sense to one person, you. So there you go. Always keep copies of everything, as you're writing, as you're making notes. Make copies. Store them in an external hard drive, something. Plus, you've got your physical notes. So if something goes wrong with your computer as you're writing your book, it's okay. You haven't lost everything. All right. So that's something to keep in mind too, and that is part of the writing process. But cloud is a great place to put your timelines. It's a great place to coordinate all of your notes. You can make, different folders, each one of a different book, and you can just organize the things that come into your head. And you'd be surprised how quickly you end up with 50 notes for all of your books. Because they're in your head, you're thinking about it anyway. You're getting inspirations from dreams and daydreams and, other moments when you're doing something else. Something will bubble up and pop, there you go, new idea. This way, each week, and I do recommend this being done weekly, each week you are putting your notes into some form of cloud service with your timelines. So that this way you can coordinate things easily and effectively. So that's part of my process. Now, if you want to, write down your notebook and, a paper pad, go right ahead. That's not a problem either. Have a separate notebook full of notes with their numbers, what book they're for. This way, again, you've got a nice system from which you can start writing your book and get it finished more efficiently. I like efficiency. I really do. I'm always trying to streamline my processes, whether it's my oil paintings or whether it's my novels. I'm always trying to streamline the process so that it's a little more efficient, because I'm going to have to be doing a lot of editing, working with my proofreader, working with my beta readers. That's going to require rewrites and edits and everything else. That's a large chunk of time. Sometimes it's longer than the time it took to write the first draft. So you're going to want to streamline things this way so it makes you more efficient. And this way you're not so stuck. You're not sure about what you're going to write next. Well, look at your notes. Your notes may have bits and pieces all over your book, but having those sections fleshed out will help you to bridge them to other sections of your book that have already gotten their first draft written. So it can become an idea generator. You can skip ahead. That's okay. You don't have to do everything in timeline order. You can jump ahead. Just make sure when you do jump ahead, if anything changes on the way to that section you jumped ahead to, that you're able to edit it appropriately so that it flows better. This way you preserve ideas, and it helps you to begin working on the processes of figuring out what happens next. How do you bridge a future chapter that's been written with one that was written a while ago, so you can kind of hopscotch a bit and then go back and then finish it up. So that's part of the process. I like to get things down first. I like to get the timeline finished so that I've got my characters, I've got my chapters, my chapter sections if there are any. For example, Clockmaker, which is this book, Clockmaker didn't have a lot of segments within a chapter. The chapters are pretty much coherent. And so there, the timeline's real easy. This is the name of the chapter, and this is basically what happens. See note 3. Okay, there we go. We got the note. The note number does not have to correspond with the chapter number, but the chapter number should be part of the note so you don't lose track. There is a good idea too. When it comes to Crew of Ganges, those chapters are all broken into what I call snippets, various locations in the ship. So a chapter might have anywhere from 4 to 7 different sections to it. And I note those by giving you where the action is happening. And that process does require a more complex timeline where you're talking your snippets, name of the character's point of view, and then your note for that piece, and so on and so on and so forth. So you have the whole thing lined up. Be very aware of not trends. I don't care about trends, fashions, or fads. Guess what? They're all going to change. Every single one of them. Believe me, I've seen quite a few come and go. I've seen trends and fashions be, oh, this will last forever. No, it does not. So I'm not really into being trendy. I don't want to follow a trend. I want to make trends. See, as a creator, that's where your thinking should be. Don't follow the herd. Create a herd of your own. Don't follow trends. Make a trend and see who wants to come along for the ride. That's much more important, I think. So maybe it's not a moneymaker. You're right. Maybe it's not. But you know what? It makes for better writing. Yes, it does. And it might expand things tremendously. So when you're looking at the world around you, when you're doing your day-to-day interactions, be open to new ideas coming in when it comes to your books. There are things you can add to your books that come from daily living. And in fact, I think they should come from daily living. I'm a science fiction and fantasy writer, but you know what? You can translate being at the bakery store and having a chat with someone there and then translating that, because it was such an interesting experience, into the book that you're writing. Change names, be clever. Don't be exact. Paraphrase, so that it fits your story. And that'd be best. But these are things that you can do anywhere you are. You are experiencing life, and now it's time to take those experiences and translate them into the writing that you're doing. And that is also a major part of the writing process. If you've never been to a diner, go to one. Experience it. If you've never flown in a plane, you know what? Do it. Just to experience what it's like to be that far above the ground. It makes your writing more genuine, especially if you're writing about an airplane, right? Having no experience in the air, not a good idea. So you want to go out into the world and experience things, or you want to base your books upon the experiences that you have, which is something that I lean on quite a bit, because in my younger years I ran around doing everything under the sun that I possibly could to experience it all. Okay, so now I have this huge pile of experience on my shoulders. It's time to start doling it out and putting it into my books. You should do the same thing when writing. So hope these little tips help out, and hope they were interesting. Please feel free to subscribe. Love subscribers. Feel free to comment. I do answer them. And I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you next week when I'm back for another edition of David Gullotta Book Dreamer. Thank you so much for watching.